today I'm going to discuss a country that has amazing forests, nature overall, and amazing culture. Because of that, I am in a forest. So that country is the United States of America. Before we begin, I want to tell you about the reason why I do a video about America, and the reason is I live in the biggest country on earth, Russia, but I don't do a video about that country, and the reason is democracy. And America has one of the best democracies out there, and I want to tell you about why America has the democracy and country where I was born hasn't. So let's begin. I so love that country that I will try to win the green card in the lottery. So please give me some hang and all that stuff, because I want to do that in the first year. I don't consider it as yes, it will be like that, of course not, but I would like to. And keeping with that theme, let's go into the history. Chronologically, I will make two videos, one about history and the second one will be about America right now and America about culture approach, a bit how it was the last 100 years and how it's strongly related to America right now. So you will understand why it is right now from just the beginning, and me as well. That's it. As we all know, America is a country of immigrants, but not everyone knows how it became that. And today we will discuss it. And of course, the first immigrants were from Europe. In 1513, first Spanish conquistadors went to Florida and were there for business approaches, of course. After them, France went in and has got Gulf of Mexico and some other parts of that western place. And of course, it couldn't be very easy for them, because in America were Native Americans, as Europeans named them American Indians, and that native peoples didn't want to have any business with Europeans. So Europeans and Native Americans fought each other. We didn't say anything about Native Americans and where they came from, and according to Wikipedia, they went to America 12,000 years ago through Siberia, through Bering Bridge in the north, through Alaska, Canada, and went south. Of course, we can't say that strongly that there were that amount of that people. Just it's impossible because it were 12,000 years ago. So it's kinda was their amount of them and something of that. Interestingly, Native Americans weren't stupid. They developed some cities, some agriculture and architecture things. According to our archaeologists, they were living mostly in the Gulf of Mexico, Florida, and around the Great Lakes. As I said, they weren't stupid, but of course they weren't as developed as the Europeans were. So when Europeans went in, they just all of Americans easily, and they try to have some business natives with food and Europeans with European goods and weapons. Deal, okay, fair enough. As I said, the first countries who were in America were Spain and France. And after some time, the empire overseas, the Great Britain, went in and has got everything actually. After Britain, France was fighting with Britain for places like Quebec, New York, and that north parts, and Spain had Florida and Gulf of Mexico, southern parts. Other than France, Spain, and Britain, there were a lot of different countries. The main country who wanted to have some colonies there were Dutch, but Great Britain was pretty strong as it is now, so they fought Dutches and they went away easily. And of course, a lot of smart people moved to America from Georgia, Europe, and in 1636 the first high university in America was built, Harvard University. At that time it was Harvard College. And I kinda love it because it means that place had huge development. And as we can see now, the development worked out. In the last part of 17th century, Europeans started to pushing people, black people from Africa into American plantations, and of course now we have some problems and we pray to black people, right? So it was the beginning at that time, the last years, decades of 17th century. After that, Americans, as I said, were pretty developed and they wanted to have some rights. The main problem and the main reason why Americans wanted to declare their independence was inability to change anything in their government. Government was in London, so they had to have, they wanted, better to say, they wanted some people who will say what they want, right? But they couldn't get them, and they said, fuck off, and we will be better by ourselves. So they declared independence and war against the Great Britain. The time from 1774 to 1769 considered as the time of independence war. Some fights were done, Americans won, and only after several fights won by Americans, Britain seeing peaceful act with America of its independence in 1781. So 15 years of war was at that time pretty bad actually. So in 1789, the one and only George Washington became the first president of the United States. I am pretty fascinated by that because it is a great beginning for the beautiful country of us. Spain had several fights with America for Florida and Gulf of Mexico, and of course America won. At that time, the beginning of 19th century, America has got the whole continent. But after that, in 1850s, there was the war against Mexico, and it's kinda funny to dig inside why they wanted to do that in the first place and why they thought they could win. I wouldn't, seriously. So America again won, and at that time, the second part of 19th century, America was huge and for a whole continent, from New York to Los Angeles to California. But peaceful time couldn't be very long for America. At that time, America had slavery inside itself. So a lot of northern people didn't like it at the first place, and now it became absolutely essential for them. It's kind of huge difference between northern parts and southern parts, when there's a lot of states in the north were absolutely free with no slavery, when in the south it was absolutely different reality, when Texas, Florida and other states were absolutely full of slavery, and the main idea black slavery. It was pretty badly. So the government and the main force were in places like New York, Detroit, Boston and Washington DC, of course. So they had the power to change that thing. After, in 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected and southern states formed their own federate of southern states, and they declared their own kind of country where slavery was all right. And of course the northern part with Lincoln didn't like it, and they started the war against it. In 1861 the war began. Through 5 years it became the bloodiest war of all time, and approximately 620,000 soldiers were killed, and about 50 grants of civilians died as well, and mostly in the southern part. Government from the north did some kind of propaganda, make it a bit better, to show the better life with no slavery, but of course the masters didn't like that at all, and it's pretty understandable. So a lot of black people came back to Africa. A lot of them moved to Detroit, to the work facilities, and were free. But it's kind of, yes, you are free, but you have to work goddamn amount of hours, and you are slave, but only in work times. Amazing transitions. And it is the same right now, actually. When we work for money, but our work equals our time, it means our time equals our money. We live for money, we lose our time for money, and I seriously don't like that. And I highly recommend you to watch the film In Time, and that is about the world, the society with absolutely like overthinked, over superrated, I would say, when it's just the worst reality of that time equals money thing. Highly recommend it to you. In 1867, America bought Alaska from Russia, and the time of golden era to Americans went in, and I pretty love it because Alaska now in better hands. Because if it was in Russia, with Russia, it would be way worse place, way worse. The beginning of 20th century, and Henry Ford made his own automobile building facilities. There were a lot of people, and it is conveyor, it's amazing, it is business opportunities, and from that time America became the world most and best producer and consumer of goods in the world. WW1 is huge war in Europe, but it didn't affect America at all and better to say that it made America better and economy grew because of that, just by helping and trading. So better for us. Okay, we went through WW1 and now we are in era of development, and we can't forget about the Great Recession in 1930, and the country was in economic trouble for the next 10 years, and it's grew. Okay, it's better in 1940, but the World War II by Hitler, and at that time America couldn't go away from it, and on December the 7th, 1941, Japanese went inside it and bombarded the Pearl Harbor, and America went inside the war. A lot of soldiers died in that war, and we all won. In 1945, America bombarded Japan by atomic bombs, and WW2 was over, hopefully. After that, child boom time, everyone is happy, economic development, and the main idea is culture development and culture overseas development by TV shows, films, Hollywood, cars, and all that stuff that I will discuss in the second video. More dig inside it. So we are now in pretty stable country after WW2 economic growth, but we don't forget about the Cold War with USSR and huge development of. On September 13th, 1959 was the first moon landing by Apollo 11, and the first two men on the moon were Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. And on December 14th, 1972 was the last landing on the moon by John Cernan and Jake Smith on Apollo 17. So after the end of the Cold War, 9/11, 2000, and George Bush declared the war against Iraq and Afghanistan, and the beginning of 21st century was there. And I didn't like that beginning seriously. And bad war. But after the war, 2008 financial crisis, and it's even worse. A lot of people and businesses were crushed, corrupt, and it was seriously badly for the. After a bad situation in American and the world history, there are a bit better thing, and after 2008 financial crisis, Barack Obama was elected, and he is one of the best presidents of all time, as far as I know. He has absolutely beautiful book. It is an autobiography, as far as I know, and as far as I understood that. So highly recommend it too. And after 8 years, two elections of him, he did pretty good job about the social jobs. I pretty love his work. And after him, 2016, and Donald Trump was elected, and a lot of people say that he was the worst president in American and the world history. I can't say he was the worst, because for me he didn't affect anything, but what I can say that in his time COVID-19, and it's absolutely bad situation for the world. Hopefully we're now out of that shit. I don't know for how much time, but it is what it is. I recommend to you to always think about good lessons that you can get from other people. So Donald Trump wrote a lot of books, and he is pretty good businessman, so we can be taught by him and his books. I now listen to them and I read them, so try to find good things from bad people as well. Now, 2023, as I said, I will not discuss the reality of America right now. I will do that in my next video, so subscribe, click the like button, and I believe that week will be my second video, and we will discuss the reality. And we discussed history already. So goodbye. See you next time.